Welcome to the Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew. I'm a writer working in unscripted TV development, and this podcast is dedicated to the TV phenomenon, The Traitors, as well as occasionally some other reality strategy competition shows like Genius Game and Million Dollar Secret. Most recently, we covered The Traitors India, and this season of the podcast is dedicated to The Traitors Ireland. Today we are going to talk about episode 6, and to help me do that, he's back again. It's the one and only David Bloomberg. You're back with us. I
I
always say
am.
back with us, but it's just me. But
Well, usually you have a cat roaming around there,
yeah,
so
me and the
it can
cat.
be S. Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
you've emerged from Big Brother US to join us, and
Yes, literally right in the middle of Big Brother US and Survivor 49 coming. So
yes.
uh yeah, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know me, missed episode 3, missed the previous series, uh I've been covering reality TV for over 25 years, online in newspaper columns, on my own websites, and for 10 years in podcasts as of next month. In addition, I post reality TV short videos on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and, you know, pretty much talk about it wherever, which is catching up with me because I am talking about it everywhere right now.
And I mentioned this on the previous episode, but David, you will be here on the podcast quite a lot towards the end of the season as you're taking the reins while I jet off to another country for a badly timed holiday. I couldn't have known. I couldn't have known the last week of Traitors Ireland would be on the one week I am away. But you'll be taking things on and doing a wonderful job, I'm sure. I,
Well, thank you. Yes, yes, we'll have some fun without you while Dad's away. The kids will play. Uh, who knows who the actual traders will be by the time we get to those episodes? But
yeah. I have a feeling it won't be the any of the ones we have right now.
yeah,
But I'm also going to jump right in, by the way, to a listener comment because it is there's a mention of you, David.
Mm,
This is from Shan on Spotify, who after your appearance on episode 3 sent a message saying, "I'm glad David is back. I know he's been busy with Dumb BB 27 and Australia versus the World, which was amazing and had a deserving winner." And she says, "This episode of The Traitors showed how quickly." Now this is back episode 3. This
yeah.
episode showed how quickly they're willing to betray each other and how early. It's giving Traitors US season 3 on steroids, and I can't wait. Also, Andrew betraying Poddy is giving British soap opera. Finally, Siobhan as the host, perfect choice, and the outfits are always on point. David, is Shan, is that an accurate description to describe BB 27 as
Yes,
dumb?
yes. They found the dumbest contestants they possibly could.
I've seen one or two of your videos. I know that Rachel, who had been in Traitors US, had some sort
Mhm.
of like weird exit. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. They changed the rules. It's something I hinted at last time. The way Big Brother works is in the U.S. is there's a head of household competition. That person nominates normally two people. This season, three people. There's a veto competition, so someone can veto one of the nominations. And then this season followed last season and adding another competition to get someone off the block. So you're only voting between two people at the end.
mm,
And then they threw this in and they were like, okay, now we're going to throw in this competition, which was from Big Brother Reindeer Games, which you also know from US traders, because there was a lot of
mm,
talk about that
yeah,
between Brittany and Danielle. And they threw in this competition from Big Brother Reindeer Games and said basically, person who fails it goes home or goes to the
yeah,
jury in this case. And it's like, that's not the way the game works. That's the way reindeer games worked. But that's not the way there's voting, there's strategic play, there's social play. Nope. Just like that, their star of the season, the only smart person of the entire season, gone.
yeah.
And it literally was like hitting a wall. I mean, even the players, the live feeds dropped The
Mm.
discussion about it dropped. It was just such a dumb move by production. They're constantly shooting themselves in the foot.
I was laughing at the comments on your TikTok video about that. Just like some people also be really annoyed, and some people be like, David, and trying to like explain it to you, and you just repeatedly be like, watch the whole video. I have
Yeah,
explained this.
yeah, yes, exactly. Because I specifically addressed it in one of the things. I'm like, don't say this because that's a dumb response, and here's why. And then people would post that, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Now that's probably a lot more than people who in Ireland who watch the Traitors ever wanted to know about Big Brother. Although Rachel is known for her red hair, so
well,
maybe there's a connection there somewhere.
and maybe
Her,
there's a
her
bit of
last name
a
is her last name's Riley. Is that
well, O'Reilly is very Irish, so maybe there's something Irish going
yeah?
on there. And I do know that Kevin, who is going to be joining us on the podcast in a couple of episodes' time, is Irish and watches Big Brother US. He actually
Okay.
is. So maybe there's in Ireland there's like a following of BBUS people. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's possible.
Unlike the dumb responses you got, I've had some lovely, wonderful, intelligent responses to some questions I threw out in the most recent episode of the podcast. So, Magica and I, just, before we get into episode six, wrap up a few things about episode five. Magica and I were confused about some of the Irish phrases, one of the jokes that Siobhan made, and we said, listeners, help us out. We don't know what this means. So lots of people have responded and helped her out. I am going to start with Kenlin, who sent a voice note in, as I've been asking people to do. So Kenlin is going to explain a couple of the phrases that I couldn't understand. One of them was a joke that Siobhan made. She called the traitors craters, and I was saying, crater? What's a crater? So here's a message from Kenlin to explain.
Hey there, this is Kenlyn from over in the US. Love the podcast, love the traders too. I lived in Ireland for a bit, so I think I know just enough to answer some of your questions. I definitely smile as I hear you asking these questions because I asked a lot of those questions when I lived there. I think I know enough to answer a couple of the last ones in the episode, or maybe I just know enough to be kind of dangerous. And I hope people will correct me, locals will correct me if I'm wrong. But what I heard Eamon say was he's going back to his life in Garda Síochána, which is the full name of the Irish police force. You might hear them called the Gardaí sometimes. And when Siobhan says crater, oh, I mean traitor, I think when you call someone a crater in Ireland, it's kind of like saying, oh, poor you. Not as in like, you're suffering, I really feel your pain, not like pobrecito, not sincerely, but like, oh, poor life, like with a wink, like you're not really suffering. Anyway, I hope that's right. I hope the others will correct me if I'm wrong. And thanks again for the awesome podcast. Can't imagine watching The Traders without you.
Thank you, Kenlin, for that. And it's just really also quite ironic that an American sent in a voice memo to explain the Irish. But lots of actual Irish people then also said written comments to explain. So there were several on YouTube and Spotify. Nicola on YouTube explained it even further and said, Hi guys, yep, Eamon said he's going back to be a loyal member of Angardia Síochána, which just means the Irish police force. Also, Siobhan says the craters, which is an Irish phrase for creature. It's like a version of the word creature, an affectionate term for a sorry kind of person. Ah, the poor crater. Love the podcast. Lucy Jackson, Dell on Spotify, Sarah on Spotify, Jillian sent me a message minutes ago on Instagram to explain the same thing. So thanks to everybody. Actually, Dell on Spotify added something else. I said in the mission in the last episode there was something written on the blackboard, and it says Bay Kane, and it just means be quiet. That's what it meant. So,
Should
uh,
have said the time for talking is over.
well,
No.
yes, could have. There was one more thing that came up in the previous episode of the pod, which was, and why did this come up? I can't remember. Why were we even talking about this? Because it didn't happen. Magic and I were talking about the possibility of someone voting for themselves at round table. I don't know if did someone joke about it in the episode? I now can't remember why we were talking about this. And we wondered, has this ever happened before? Someone voting for themselves? Surely you can't do that. And actually, couple of listeners again came to the rescue to explain, no, it has happened and we've just forgotten. So, and you will, one of these seasons you've seen, David, Venus Rain on YouTube said, yeah, someone voted for themselves before. Joe from Traitors New Zealand season two, and I do remember Joe clearly, um, did this at Flora at Four on Spotify reminded me of this as well. Joe, Traitors New Zealand season two. He got really far in the competition, I think to the last five or six players, and he got really exasperated. And oh, I should have put a spoiler. Sorry if you've not seen New Zealand season
Ah,
two. Um, that's not really a spoiler. He was really having a bit of a meltdown with the game and was struggling. And he gets to the round table and he just writes his own name down. He's like, "I want to go. I'm done." He just votes for himself.
I
I
mean,
won't spoil.
is that really any different from being subject to a blackmail and saying, "Nah, I'm not going to become a traitor."
I
I mean,
guess kind of, yeah, yeah. I won't spoil whether it made a difference to Joe's banishment. That's so it's not really
Mhm.
a spoiler. You don't know the outcome, right?
Right. Except
I
Joe made it to that point. That's all. That's all of it that you know. It's okay.
Yeah, not a big deal. And someone else added to that actually and sent me down a bit of a YouTube rabbit hole. So someone whose username I think is Kuda Vianka on YouTube said in Traitors Poland, a traitor voted for themselves. I think it was the first voting of the first season. She was a mess.
Yeah.
And it was either Kuda or another user sent me a link to watch like a 6 minute video on YouTube about it, which was fascinating. And yes, it was about this season of Traitors Poland. The first episode of the show, the traitors are chosen, and one of the traitors just sort of seems to go into meltdown and can't deal with it. And at the round table, just outs herself and says, "I'm voting for me because I'm a traitor." It's really weird. So I'm kind of surprised that I just assumed you weren't allowed to do that. I thought it was part of the
Yeah.
rules. You can't vote for yourself. But maybe if you do it, they just let you. I don't know. So there we
I
go.
mean, yeah, it's certainly part of the rules in Survivor. Um, Big Brother, it doesn't apply because the nominees don't vote. But yeah, it's you would think it would be on the traders, but maybe they were just like, if they want to vote for themselves, who are we to stop them?
Yeah, yeah. Big Brother UK, you cannot vote for yourself. That's definitely a rule. But
Mhm.
yeah, maybe traitors. They're like, hey, if it creates some interest in TV, why not? Do what you want to
Right.
do. Uh, One final thing before we jump into this episode is I have done it again in a slightly different way. I spoiled the outcome of this episode before I watched it. This time, not through social media, this time through a very strange method. I was contacted by a journalist which is really cool, to ask some questions about what I thought of the show. I'm assuming the journalist is going to write an article all about Traitors Ireland from a big newspaper in Ireland. So that was really exciting, and I sent back, "Oh, here are my thoughts. Here's how I can compare it to other seasons." And out of curiosity, I then a few days later thought, "Hey, I wonder if they've written an article." So I sort of went onto the paper's website and was having a search on their page for traitors, and started looking at articles. And actually, they review every episode of the show
Oh,
on
yeah.
through their and so I looked at the first one that came up and sort of started scanning to see if it said the Trader podcast. And like the first sentence tells you what happens in the next episode. And I was like, no. So yeah, kind of ruined it a little bit for myself there. So I shan't be doing that again. So I need to be even more
Don't go
cautious than I was
online.
being. Just don't use the internet, Matthew, until you've seen the episodes, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I mean that's what I learned, like for Australian Survivor. I mean, they post on their social media like immediately after it happens. If
Yeah.
and they're what 17 hours ahead of me or something like that. So when
Yeah.
it's on, I have to watch it first thing in the morning or else first thing the next morning or the previous morning. I don't know. Time travel's weird. Um, but it goes on at night there, and then by the time I see it, yeah. Otherwise, I just know I'm going to get spoiled on it.
Yes. So I'm going to say it now on the podcast. I'll say it nearer the time, but I'll say it now as well. When I am away on holiday for the final week of Traitors Ireland, I just won't look at the podcast social media at all. So Don't send me any questions that week. Send them to David because I just won't.
Good luck editing and posting the podcasts while you're gone without
Yeah,
finding
well,
out.
luckily we have an editor on hand to do that. The posting, yeah, I'll have to post them without listening to them, so I'll just
Yeah.
be trusting the editor that it's all good. And I trust you, David. You is fine. It's fine. You can say anything in the podcast
You're
that week, and
trusting the
I'll.
guy in the black cloak here.
So we are going to talk about episode six. David, since you were on the podcast for episode three, any thoughts to catch up on the other episodes, four and five?
Yeah, a few of them. I thought that it was interesting. Episode 4 had probably the nicest conclave we've ever seen after traitors turned on one another. I it wasn't like the Traitors US where they were viciously, talking about one another. Uh, but I do think a lot of it was because Potty realized he had screwed up, so
Hmm.
he couldn't get too mad at them.
Yeah.
Um, so that continued, but then episode 5 comes around, and they had been talking in the end of episode 4 about murdering John, and they were like, "Oh, that'd be so mean." And I think Potty was the one who said he just got here, and Eamon
Yeah.
said, "And now he can leave," and and then they did, and
Yeah.
it was so funny that I mean, if I were John, I wouldn't be laughing, but then. Caitlin and Eamon sitting there going, "Oh, those traitors are so cruel. That is just disgusting." Um, so and then another thing that I noticed, because last time I was on, I commented on how gently Siobhan placed the portrait down of the murdered player in the
Mm.
second murder after the first time when she tossed it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've paid attention. She's done that every time since.
Yeah. Yeah. A bit more gentle.
She's a host with a heart.
Yeah.
She just, I don't know. I prefer the tossing on the floor way. Um,
Maybe she's saving. Maybe she'll come back to it as the season goes on.
yeah, it depends if they piss her off.
Yeah.
Um, And then, yeah, of course, the last episode, Eamon got himself banished. You know,
Yeah.
I know you've talked about it, but he really did it to himself. He overplayed. He got so worked up about Potty, he didn't consider his own actions.
Yeah.
It was just,
Yeah. Particularly, I mean, again, I talked about it on the
yeah,
podcast with Magica when he took Poddy and Caitlin
oh
aside
God,
to look at the three of them in front of everyone. I just think I've never seen traitors do this
yeah.
before. I thought it was such a terrible play. Yeah, just yeah.
And then, Caitlin gets up and storms off because he was whispering, I mean, the thing is, I don't think anybody even noticed that. It was so bad, but I don't think that even came into play. It
No,
was just
no.
all the stuff that he did and said there that, yeah, these traders, I know we've seen some messy traders, but these may be the messiest ever.
Yeah, and at the start of the season, episode one, I was like, hey, I think Caitlin, she's going to be really
Yeah.
good. She's going to be quiet. She's going to fly under the radar. She seems really, but they've kind of all messed up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And then I was surprised they decided to recruit. I mean,
mm,
my opinion is almost always murder.
yeah,
But in this case, I felt like Caitlyn did it so she could try to turn Nick against Potty. Like
yeah,
it wouldn't be one against one. And I I did at the time wish Potty had pushed harder for Andrew because as I said before watching this episode, that would have been amazing.
yeah. But yeah, it's the weird thing.
Yeah.
Actually, the way it's worked out now is so much better for
Yeah.
Poddy, as we'll
Yeah.
discover. Yeah. So, I think we are ready to go ahead with our episode six then. Here we go. For a recap, we're reminded that after four murders, like you said, David, the most recent being John, the faithful finally banished a traitor. It's Eamon. After, yes, he and Poddy turned on one another at the round table and several other things that Eamon did wrong. And we finished the episode 5 with Poddy and Caitlin offering Nick recruitment. I predicted in the podcast with Magica that he would accept. I did say I could really see it going either way. But surely he's going to do the smart thing and just accept it. Little did I know.
Well,
We
little did
begin at
you
Rick.
know, and then doing the smart thing, it turns out not in his wheelhouse.
No.
He has decided to go a different direction in this episode.
Yeah, and I think there are. It's not the last thing in this episode that he does that I think is a bad
Right.
idea.
Yeah.
So at breakfast, Ben and Wilkin are the first to arrive. Ben guesses straight away the traitors probably recruited last night, and then they count the chairs and realize, oh, yeah, wait a minute, everybody's going to come back. Surely they had recruited.
Which,
Which,
come on, production.
yeah,
Don't make it
keep a
so
chair back.
obvious. Keep a
Yeah,
chair back or put extras in, keep them
yeah, mess
guessing.
around. Exactly. I thought, I mean, I know we're waiting to find out whether Nick accepted the recruitment, but it makes the arrivals a bit
Hmm.
anticlimactic
Yeah.
because the players haven't got anything to wait for and surprise. So there's not much to watch them being
Right.
suspenseful about, which is a shame. Caitlin arrives on the next pair. Of course, she has to pretend. Oh, she doesn't know. Oh, there's a recruitment. I wonder who it would be. Did they accept? We know she knows. And others arrive. Well, some of the players are trying to think of who Eamon had been close to. Comes up again a bit later in the episode. The first name to be thrown around as a suspect, well, they're all just chatting and waiting around, is Caitlin. Vanessa, Christine, Faye, they're all talking about her. And it's still connected to the shield and partly the way she lied to her team in the mission about not being offered a shield, and partly the way she came to some of the other women and told them she had a shield the episode before that. And uh, Poddy is also already targeting Caitlyn as well at breakfast. He's talking to Wilkin about her. And it's really funny what Poddy does to use as his excuse. He's talking about Linda, um, who is banished, like what, the first round table, and he's like, I think Linda was right. Linda was right. Like, okay, if you want to say that Linda was right and that's your reason, fine.
Wasn't Linda, wait, wasn't Linda banished
Oh,
just,
Linda, I'm mix. Yeah, sorry, I'm
yeah,
mixing
Linda's the
up
doctor.
Linda.
Yeah.
I was mixing up Linda and Diane. Diane was
Yeah.
episode one.
Yeah.
Sorry, Linda, you're right. Linda had her eye on Caitlin from the start, and
Right.
yeah, but it's still funny that Poddy's like,
Right.
I trust Linda. I like, okay. Uh, so Poddy is also talking to Mark, and Eamon gets really frustrated again. He's swearing, he's getting agitated, and other players are noticing this. I just think Eamon is not doing himself any favors. He's too noticeable all of the time and everything that he does. So more players arrive, and Nick and Amy arrive last. Of course, it makes sense that Nick comes in last. Oh, we're going to wait and see. How long will he wait before he tells anyone? Will he tell anyone? Will he keep it a secret all day? No, no, no. He hasn't even sat down,
Yeah.
and he announces, "Hey guys, they tried to recruit me last night," and they're all like, "Yay!" cheering and applauding because it's sort of obvious from the way that he says it that he refused the
Yeah.
recruitment. He says, I took that letter and I ripped it up in front of the camera. And for a moment, I thought, well, maybe he's lying. Maybe he's
Yeah.
telling them all this, but actually accepted it. And Mark and Faye theorize, like, oh, is he just pretending? And Vanessa even makes a comment saying, he looks like he hasn't slept. Maybe he was up all night with the traitor. No, no. We flash back to him doing exactly that. And he says he enjoys being an honest faithful, and he wants to see where being trusted by the group will get him. And I thought, murdered. That's where it'll get you, Nick.
Yeah.
Murdered. Uh, I, I don't know. Do you feel the same as I do, that this was a bad idea?
Yeah, I was surprised, one, that he refused it, and two, that he told everyone, because that telling people usually brings suspicion on you right away. Now, I could see it being a bit of protection so that the actual traders won't try to throw shade on him now.
Mm.
Like, they could have said, oh, that Nick, he looks like he hasn't slept. I bet he was recruited and just isn't saying anything. But he put a spotlight on himself. And as we'll see this episode, that spotlight only grows and grows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he spoiler alert, he avoids murder this episode for, the reasons we'll go into, but I think moving on, he's not going to avoid it for long.
Yeah. Well, I actually wonder if he may not have avoided murder because I'm jumping away ahead, but if you're listening to this podcast, you've seen the whole
Right.
episode, it doesn't matter. Quite often when there's a
Right.
blackmail, there is also a murder straight away. So Poddy may, go ahead and murder him this night. We're not, the Siobhan doesn't say that yet, but it could happen.
It could.
Uh,
That's a good point. I had forgotten. I was thinking about that. I don't think, even if they do a murder, I think it would be ridiculously bad to
mm,
murder him after he just pointed the finger at Andrew in a very loud way.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know we're
yeah.
jumping to the end of the podcast here, but uh, you know, um, I still think he avoids murder for a little while.
Probably, yeah, yeah. But in any case,
Right.
I feel like, yeah, just him saying, "Oh, I'm gonna be one of the faithfuls and see how far that
Yeah.
gets me." I just think this is so dangerous. You could be murdered any.
Yeah.
Are you just hoping you're gonna get a shield in every mission? Like that's not gonna happen. So that's my bias as well because I
Yes.
just always think playing the game as a traitor is
Right.
best, and me personally think it's really good fun. So, Siobhan returns to the traitors after Nick's refused. We see this in the flashback, and just her delivery is great. She goes, "I have bad news. Your offer has been declined. Good night." And that's it. And off she goes. And yeah, obviously Caitlin and Poddy are pretty disappointed.
Hmm.
Back to breakfast. Siobhan's here. She has a playing card in her headband, which is kind of cool. And Patrick then, and it reminded me, oh yeah, Patrick. That was his career. He worked in
Right.
casinos. But what I didn't know, and which he now reveals in his confessional, is not only did he work in a casino, it was in Vegas, and he lived there for 20 years. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. Pretty cool. Um, so Siobhan does her sort of fake counting of everybody and goes, you're all here. How interesting. And the thing is, it doesn't quite have an impact because Nick's already told them exactly what
Right.
happened last night. So
Right.
it's a shame that they had planned for her to deliver that line and make them all go, oh, what did happen? They already know what happened, so it's
Yeah.
a bit of a letdown. She talks some more, gives them their usual clue about the mission. Although the clue for the mission threw me a little bit. She says, hey guys, why don't you put on some lippy, get dolled up a bit? And when she says get dolled up, I thought, oh, it's the haunted
Yeah.
dolls mission that we've seen in some other seasons. And then she says, you deserve to have a good time. Now that you've caught a traitor, all bets are off. And then I realized, oh, it's some sort of betting thing. And
Hmm.
oh, that's why they showed us Patrick talking about the casino, of course, and the headband with the card.
Yes.
So off she goes. We spread out through the castle for some chat. Everyone is throwing out names left, right, and center
Right.
here. They're talking about Andrew, Patrick, Caitlin, Poddy, uh, Kelly talks about Wilkin. I was actually surprised when people. First of all, I was surprised that people were talking about Andrew. I just didn't think. I thought he was one of the people that they all accepted. Ah, he's a good guy. He's a faithful. We don't. I didn't think he'd had much focus till now, but for whatever reason, people have started to look at him
Well,
again.
he
I
looked
guess
like
he's
he
just too
hadn't slept.
quiet.
I mean, and we know how accurate those sorts of reads are. If
Yeah,
you look like you haven't slept, then clearly you must be a traitor.
absolutely. And the Kelly talked about being suspicious of Wilkin, and it was. I guess I guess I can see a reasoning. She says the way that he jumped up at the round table early, like when Eamon just said the line, "I've been lying to you all," and Wilkin goes,
Yeah.
and they're like, wait, Wilkin," and she's like, "Does that mean he knew what Eamon was gonna
I
say?" And he
mean,
was,
I
I,
I get
I
I
mean,
understand what Will did there.
yeah, yeah,
But and by the way, this whole conversation is really weird to me because he goes by Will, or at least some people were calling him
mm,
Will.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's Kelly with an EY. And on Big Brother US, there is a Kelly with an EY and a Will. So it's really confusing when we have, we're talking about Kelly and Will on this show as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure in like the last US traitors there were like Rob and Bob and another
Yeah,
Bob and
yeah.
and Robert and
And
or two Robs, two Bob. Yeah,
Robin. Yeah.
yeah. Very confusing. Stop casting
Yeah.
people with similar names in similar shows. Uh, so yeah, we've then got Will here talking about being born in the Dominican Republic, and he
Mhm.
married someone from New York, and his wife is Irish, and I guess he lives there now. So I did think before he had an American-ish accent, and so now it
It's not
makes
an
sense.
American accent, but yeah,
Well,
it's a,
American-ish. I just knew it wasn't Irish. It didn't feel Irish to me, so I
I
thought
mean,
he
North,
North American continent
yeah,
accent.
okay. Because we all have the
Uh,
same accent in the
it's all the
continent of North
same, yeah.
America. Yes.
So there are more. Yeah, you already said it. My next note was about lots of suspicions based around people looking tired.
Yeah.
Someone mentions Caitlin. Patrick mentions Andrew looking tired, like you said. Andrew is also talking to Poddy and Nick about how he wants to play the game as a faithful and he doesn't want to be recruited, which immediately is interesting to me because we've heard Poddy in a previous episode say like he wants to bring Andrew on board. Uh, and I guess if you're being recruited any other time, not a blackmail, you don't know who is trying to recruit you.
Right.
Tonight will be different.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, huh. Yeah, it would have been interesting if they had tried to recruit him instead, because then we would have seen this whole scene of him going, "Ah, it might be my dad. I don't know if it's my dad, and
Yeah,
if it's not my dad, do I want to be a traitor and have to go against my dad? But if it is my dad, I don't want to not go with him." And
yeah,
you know, but we missed out on all that.
yeah. And instead, we'll get another scenario altogether, which
Yeah,
I'm very much looking forward to.
yeah,
Some of the ladies, meanwhile, I'm not being sexist. I'm just saying this is who is we see talking about. They're all excited about getting dressed up and having their night out that Siobhan had promised them. And there's not much more before we cut right to the cars. We're on our way to wherever we're going. Christine is chatting to Caitlin about her job, and we find out here that Caitlin has, I think this is the first time we find this out, that she's been pretending she's a wedding celebrant. And actually, her job is she's a consultant. She works in psychological research and research into human behavior. Now, looking back, I realize, oh, that's why they've shown us that in this episode because of what's going to come
hmm
at the end.
right.
Some of the bros, I'm calling them Nick, Andrew, and Ben. They're chatting about aiming for Patrick tonight, which well, it's funny because they then actually Nick and Ben really turn on Andrew later on.
Right.
So it's
But
funny that they're having this chat.
yeah, it is. I mean, the whole thing's weird, but they also talk about targeting Patrick. They believe Caitlin is the traitor,
Yeah.
but they want to go after the people who might be faithfuls just because they don't trust them, which is an absolutely valid strategy.
hmm
Perfectly valid if you keep it to yourself. Let's put a pin
Yeah.
in that little part there.
Yeah. Yes, it's gonna become a bigger deal later. Yeah, they've got one right. They have Caitlin right. But they have Patrick
Mhm.
wrong. And yeah, like you said, they're wondering like should we just go for Caitlin tonight? Should we try and something get someone else instead? I think I do think at this point most of the group, most of them, not all of them, do generally agree that Caitlyn is the most likely traitor,
Mhm.
which made me just I'm going to state the obvious here, but we are being presented with a shortened version of the actual game that is genuinely happening.
Right.
So for so many of them to be so sure about Caitlyn means we're not really seeing everything that she's doing. Like there must be something about her behavior that's making so many of them feel that convinced that it's not fully coming across on TV.
I mean, yeah, we saw some things like the lying about being offered the shield.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
was just an unforced error on her part. There was no reason, you guys discussed it. It was
yeah, yeah.
there was no reason for her to do that. And I think when I was on last time, we talked about John giving her the shield.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I actually thought it was okay that she told the other two people. I was
So
like,
did
oh,
I.
in this case, it was, it seemed okay. But that came back to bite her too,
Yeah, yeah.
because a couple of the others were like, but why did you tell me exactly? And once one thing happens, we've seen it so many times, other things start tacking on and adding up, and she just, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at the time I agreed with you that I thought it made her look really faithful because I got the impression from the episode that it was quite a surprise that John gave her the shield, and
Hmm.
she, even as a traitor, was sort of taken aback, and so went to her friends and went, "Guys, guess what just happened to me?" But actually, as it turns out, and we find out later, she possibly did go to John and heavily imply, "Oh man, I'm so nervous about getting murdered tonight," and pushed for it, which something that Christine finds out later and goes,
Hmm.
"Wait a minute, you actually it wasn't really that much of a surprise to you that John gave you it, but you pretended to us like you were sort of shocked about it."
Yeah.
So time for the mission then. And when I've got all my notes here when I'm watching the episodes, and I name my sections. And like you, so I called this little section mission. But
Me
I had this
too.
Freudian when I was typing sort of just as I was watching, and I called this section Siobhan. And then just because Siobhan was so cool in this part, I just love her so much, and she's shaking cocktails behind the bar. So I thought, oh, it's the Siobhan section, um, and she's pouring drinks, and some of them are blue and some of them are red. So I thought, oh, this means something.
Yes. Yes, me too. I was like, because actually some were yellow too, I believe. And then you see the three colors on the table, blue,
Yeah,
red, and yellow. And I'm like, oh, so the way it's going to work is it's going to have something to do with what color drink you had. No, nope,
yeah, no.
nope, nothing at all
That
to do with that.
That may, unless in a future episode they're going to really come back and go, remember, 3 missions ago, you all
Yeah.
randomly selected a drink. Well, little did you know. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. The yellow drinks were a very, very slow acting poison,
yeah. Blue drinks meant you have a shield now.
Yeah.
Probably not. So the players arrive, they make a toast, and they move upstairs to the casino. I'm putting casino in speech marks
Yeah.
because it's just a room with a green table in it. And
Any
Siobhan,
any room can be a casino if it has a green table in it.
sure, and Patrick's there. So,
Yeah.
uh, Siobhan randomly selects 3 players' names on cards, unless there's some trickery going on. I believe it's random. And they're going to play games on behalf of the whole group for money, but also for the chance to win a shield. The players chosen are Oyen, Patrick, kind of perfect, and Faye. And if I was very suspicious and thought things were rigged, I would claim that's too convenient that it was Patrick. I don't believe it, but I don't think anything was rigged here. I do think it's just
Yeah.
a coincidence. Uh, and it's funny because there's a point here where Nick is in his interview and he admits that he's mad he can't win a shield now because he knows
Hmm.
he's in trouble tonight. And again, I thought, then why did you reject recruitment? Like, this is your own fault. Other
I would rather
players,
die a faithful than live a traitor.
yeah, yeah, I guess. As I shake my head.
Yes.
Other players are then going to do the betting. They're going to bet on which of the 3 chosen players will win these sort of mini games. Bet one will be which player will build a 2-story house of cards the fastest. Bet two is going to be about a jigsaw who can like
Hmm.
put together a jigsaw fastest. And bet three, they're going to throw cards up in the air and then look through them and find the traitor card. Pretty simple. It's weird though that they
It's
they they do the betting on all of them straight away. I thought they would bet on one, watch the game,
mhm.
and then bet on the next one and watch so that as they go they could judge how good people are at things, but they sort of just do it all it's like sort of front heavy. It's a strange way of playing the game, but
Yeah, and also, obviously casino games. I don't know how many casinos you've gone to, but lots of card house making in casinos, lots of jigsaw puzzles in casinos, lots of 52 pickup in casinos.
yeah,
Those are very standard casino games that,
that
uh,
it's how I won my fortune in
yes.
building a house of cards in a casino. That's
Yeah.
what made me rich. That time I went to a casino. Yeah. Uh, I guess maybe, we've established that it's not a huge budget like Traitors US and UK maybe on this version. It's a smaller country. I also think maybe they spent more of their budget on some of the missions and they were like, right,
Yeah.
episode 6, we need something that doesn't cost anything. Can we just put them in a room and make them play some card games?
I mean,
So,
but that's it. They didn't even play card games. Like they could have
well,
played like
yeah.
who's more likely to win a hand of blackjack? Who's more likely to win a hand of draw poker? You know,
Yeah, none
something
of
like
that.
that are actual casino games instead of 52 pickup
Yeah.
find the trader.
I guess maybe they were worried. What if we pick one of the players who's like, I don't know how to play blackjack. I don't know how to play poker. So they're like, we need to give them something that anybody can do, whether they've played a game
Yeah.
of cards or not before.
Yeah.
So for the first game, they all pick Patrick for the House of Cards. They think that he'll be used to literally handling decks of cards. Actually, doesn't work out that way. And I
Because
made a note here to
again, not a
myself.
lot of card house building in a casino. I
Exactly.
can in all of the poker games, all of the blackjack games that I have been at, I do not believe I have ever seen anyone making card houses.
No. I mean,
So
I guess, I mean, I can see their thinking. They're like, well,
mhm.
if he's a croupier, like maybe he does cool like shuffling techniques and he's really quick. So if anyone's going to be quite agile and nimble, it would be him. But this also reminded me of the Netflix show Million Dollar Secret, and David and I covered this on the podcast. I recommend it. I really enjoyed that season. So. Traitors Ireland listeners, if you've got Netflix, I would recommend watching it. And there will be a season 2. So we covered it on the podcast, and it reminded me of one of the challenges on that show where they had to thread a needle,
Yeah,
and I quite liked that challenge. And
I
David,
did not.
you were not quite scintillated. So this made me think, I'll have to ask David if he was like really scintillated by this building houses of cards.
I would rather
Um,
see them build a house of cards than thread a needle. I will say that.
I mean, even I will admit this was
Yeah.
sort of underwhelming to watch.
Yeah.
There was much going on. Anyway, Oyen wins, and uh, it it took me a second. I thought, wait a minute, why don't they just throw the challenge and let the person that the group bet on win? And then I realized, no, wait, they are also competing to win a shield. Of course,
Right. It
that's their
it
incentive.
it could have led to interesting discussions like, oh, sure, you knew who we bet on and you didn't want the money to go into the pot, so you did it just to get a shield. Because we have those discussions all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody took a shield just the previous day, which, by the way, idiotic. I did not include that in my
Yes.
previous thoughts. That was dumb.
Yeah, I
But
couldn't believe it.
um, they just lucked out that they got Amen and didn't have to worry about it. So,
Mm.
but yeah, in this case, you absolutely try to win and go for the shield. It's their own fault for betting against you.
Yeah, and it's also funny that last time when Siobhan announced at the round table, I offered out shields and no one took one, and they all cheer and they're like, "Yay, nobody took a shield."
Mhm.
But from the edit, it seems like nobody gets mad at Oyen here. I don't. Maybe a couple of people do. I don't know, but they don't.
Right,
There don't seem to be much of that
right.
conversation. Nobody mentions it at round table and goes, "I think that was really sus that you tried to win a shield." So
Mhm.
they're sort of over it by this point.
Yeah.
Um, Game two's the Jigsaw. Also not really much to watch, quite sort of a quiet watch. The best part is when they figure out, oh, the image is the Traitors logo, and Nick goes, does that mean it's a picture of Poddy? And they all just laugh. Faye wins this one. Group wins €500. Game three, yeah, 52 pickup. Woohoo! Throw them in the air. Find the traitor cards. Um, and Oyen wins this one as well.
Hmm.
But th things aren't over. Actually, there's another game. It extends further, which Siobhan hasn't told us. There's a Q&A where the three chosen players have to write an answer and hope it matches the answer given separately by the betting group. And they've been asked the same question. Question one, who's the best in the missions? The group write Ben. All three chosen players write
Well,
Ben.
wait, was it? Well, first of all, is this a common phrase? The ear defenders that she put out. She had them
Oh,
put
yeah.
on ear defenders.
Um, yeah, instead of what, like earmuffs or
Ear. I mean,
ear
headphones,
headphones.
earphones.
Yeah, ear
Yeah.
defenders, I guess.
I,
I
I,
don't
I
know.
also have to wonder with Oyen with the big hair. You
Yeah.
know, did that? Yeah, she got like everyone
Oh,
right. I'm
hey.
just saying. You know,
Something
did
fishy
anyone?
going on.
Yeah, did anyone check the to make sure that that worked with that much hair in the way that it?
Well, even if she didn't, I admire her for
Yes.
cheating.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
Well
was the
done,
first
Owen.
question? I didn't write this down. You said who's the best in the challenges, but was
Yeah.
this the question where they said who's the biggest asset? 'Cause-
Uh, yes, it must have been this. Well, there
yeah.
was another. Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Who's the biggest asset
Because
in the challenges?
when she said that, that's not the word I thought she was saying. You know,
Yeah. Who's the biggest
who's the
ass?
big? Yeah, who's the biggest asset? Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay.
That would have been funnier.
Yeah, this is going in a totally different direction than I thought it would.
For question two, the question is who do you think is the leader of the group? The group all writes Nick, which is very interesting.
Mhm.
Patrick, Faye, and Oyen. In fact, Faye and Oyen guessed that and write Nick. Patrick writes Mark, which I understand. It seems like he's very popular as well, and they all like him. Question three, who's the funniest? The group write Mark. Patrick and Oyen write Mark. Faye writes Ben, which maybe he is funny.
I mean,
Maybe
and
they have
maybe
fun
Mark is
chats.
funny. I don't feel like we've particularly seen Mark being funny. I
Yeah,
but we don't see a lot of those social moments. I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know who we would if you asked me, I don't know who I'd pick of the group because it's
I'd probably
we
say
just don't
Poddy.
see it. Yeah.
Makes me laugh.
Yeah, unintentionally funny.
Question four is who is the most likely to Google themselves? The group right Vanessa, Patrick and Oyen guessed that. She says she works in social media, so she kind of has to do that or something. And Faye writes Christine, which is slightly awkward. Question five is the more interesting question. Who's the best game player?
Mhm.
The group disagree more on this one and chat about it for longer. They briefly suggest Nick before moving to Caitlin, which really worries her because she suddenly realizes, oh, that's their opinion of me. Oh, this isn't good. And Patrick also guesses her as the answer. Faye writes Nick. I think it sort of writes it in a positive way though, like he
Right.
understands the game the best and we
Mhm.
should listen to him about the game because they all thought he was like the leader of the group. Oyen writes Mark maybe for similar reasons that he's sort of has a good
Yeah,
understanding of the game.
I would argue if they all think that she's the traitor, that means she's not the best game player.
Well, true, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's not done a very good job of for
No.
fulfilling her role. So at the end of it, overall they have banked €1,500 and Oyen wins the shield. Back in the cars, they seem to have changed who they're with. So
Hmm.
Mark is now in a car with Ben and Nick, and this is where things have shifted. And their new plan is to go in on Andrew. They say that he never speaks at the round table. They were surprised that he voted for Eamon after he hadn't suggested he was going to do that. So they wonder, oh, does that mean he and Eamon were traitors and he only voted for him at the last minute because he felt that he didn't have a choice and Eamon was about to be banished, that sort of thing. And they're basically planning what they are calling a blindside on Andrew, and they're
Hmm.
they're all really excited about it. I wouldn't call it to me a blindside is that you've got a whole host of people enough that it's going to make the difference. Like
I mean, I think
just
that's what
just
their
the three
plan
of
was.
them.
Yeah, I mean, I think their plan was tell as many people as possible vote for Andrew. And we see
Yeah.
them telling a few, after they get back. Nick brings up the plan to Potty, of all people.
Yeah.
Um, and then as they're walking to the round table, Nick whispers to Caitlin, "Vote Andrew if you want to save yourself."
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I wish I had a better sense of the timing because
Mm.
we didn't see Potty talk to Andrew, but Potty tells literally everything to Andrew, so including many things he shouldn't. So was there time for him to tell Andrew that they were blindsiding him? We don't really get any
Yeah.
indication of that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, because I couldn't tell at the round table how shocked Andrew was about it. I mean, I think he was surprised to an extent,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's not clear. It's not clear. And yeah, I mean, we may as well just dive into the
Hmm.
round table. You're right. When they were walking in and Nick whispered that to Caitlin, yeah, clearly it is part of his plan that he actually does think she's a traitor, but he wants to keep her around for the time being.
Hmm.
But it really, for the second, it panics her. And just like in the mission, when everybody or the group chose her as the biggest game player, I wonder how blind she is to their true opinions of her. Like that, it seemed like she hadn't sussed how much suspicion was on her,
Yeah.
which is weird because she's had votes at round table
Hmm.
and people have talked about her already, but maybe she's not realized how close she is coming to actually being banished. And before Siobhan speaks, we've got Nick in his interview again saying, "If we don't get a traitor tonight at round table, I think I'll be murdered 100%."
But then why
Again,
was he going for Andrew?
well,
Like,
right,
that's
right.
contradictory because their plan was go for Andrew, even though we don't really think he's a traitor, because
So
we can keep Caitlin in our pocket. But
yeah,
then he also says if we don't get a traitor, I'll be murdered.
it also doesn't make sense because even if they do get a traitor, he could still well be murdered. So he must be assuming there could have been four traitors to start the
Yeah,
game, so there might
he
still
must
be
be
enough left to
assuming there
murder
were
him.
he must be assuming there were three, or that since they tried to recruit once, they'll try to recruit a second time, especially if they lose another one, even if they're down
Yeah,
to two instead of one.
yeah, and he must also be assuming that even if it comes to they get a traitor out and there's a blackmail tonight,
Hmm.
there's a blackmail and no murder. So he's there's just a lot of
Right.
assuming going on. So Siobhan comes in, she tells them the prize at this point is now 21,900 euros, but they sort of clap a little bit and she says their applause is lackluster, appropriately. Mark begins the discussions tonight and he comes in to accuse Andrew. His his line, the way that he explains it is so confusing to me. There's so many, it's such a chain of events and pieces of information. So I kind of have bullet pointed it. So I had to watch it a couple of times and be like, right, he says this, and then he moves on to this, and then this is his next step. He says his main reason for accusing Eamon was Eamon's change in behavior. Okay. Next point, I haven't spoken to Andrew between round table two, when he accused Eamon the first time, and Eamon's actual banishment. I don't know how those two things are connected. And then he goes on to like this other non sequitur. I was talking to Vanessa and you joined the conversation. I'm like, I can't jump from point to point here. And he says, I mentioned Faye as a suspect and you agreed. And then he says, Andrew, you speculated that there was probably a. Now, this is the final part is where I get what he's saying. All the other stuff before that, I don't know what it meant. He says, Andrew, you speculated that there was probably a quiet and shy female traitor. Um, and Mark saying, but that's the opposite of Faye. Faye's quite sort of lively and speaks up a lot. And she's like an extrovert. And he says, Andrew, you also then said you thought there was an alpha male traitor. And that's not really what you're like. So you were suggesting types of traitors who are the opposite of the real traitors. It's because you're a traitor and you're trying to throw us off. And so Andrew tries to defend himself and he says, well, Mark, I've suspected you of being a traitor for a while. That's why I've not spoken to you, really. And he says, well, I've approached Faye and I've told her that I might be a bit suspicious of her. And Faye's like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, if
he,
there's one thing Andrew's going to do, it's tell people who he's suspicious of and tell people what he's heard about them, you know.
yeah. And Andrew's reason for not trusting Faye is quite bizarre. He thinks that based on her literal portrait picture on the
Oh
wall,
yeah.
she isn't portraying her true, authentic self. And even she goes, "What, based on my picture on a wall?" It's really strange. And
I
Mark
I
also
wonder what
seems
yeah, I wonder what he would make of the last version of the US Traitors ones that were just so bad. The portraits were,
yeah.
or was it the UK or both of them? I
Quite
just
often the portraits are weird pictures.
yeah.
So- Mark also seems quite pissed off at Andrew, just saying that he's been a bit suspicious of him. And just it happens a lot in this show that people can be quite hypocritical and throw out accusations, and then when someone says, "Well, I think you might be a traitor," they're like, "Excuse me?"
Yeah.
Like horrified. It'll happen a lot in the the UK season that was most recent. Nick then chimes in and he asks Andrew why, when he was the one caught out, he was the one who caught Eamon lying yesterday. He didn't voice it at the round table, or indicate he would be voting for Eamon. He's sort of like, if I had really caught someone lying about me, I'd be so mad. I'd be talking about it at the round table. I'd be pissed off, which. Which is a fair point. And he says he said I had to do it at the round table. You didn't even say anything. And Andrew simply says, "Well, for that exact reason, you'd already made the case, so I didn't feel like I needed to." I'm like, okay, um,
And also, wasn't
sure.
that the round table where they each had to keep taking turns because so many people were trying to talk at once and they kept like,
Interrupting each other
yeah,
and
Eamon was like, you let me talk, and then I'll let you talk. And then instead of letting Poddy talk, someone else talked, and Poddy had to
yeah,
like reclaim his time and this and that. I don't even know when Andrew would have had a chance to speak.
yeah, yeah. So maybe yeah, exactly. He was just like, well, Nick's already said what I was going to say anyway. There's no point in me now coming into to this. So yeah, I
But
do
yeah,
I
I
do
mean,
get that.
why draw attention to yourself if it's already tilting towards the person you want to get out? Why
You don't need
why
to do
add
anything
to it
more.
and risk something coming back towards you?
Sure. Poddy comes in next. I think in response to somebody's question, but I reckon he wants to get the heat off his son, so he
Yeah.
deliberately shifts things away, and he brings it back around to Caitlin, which isn't a surprise. We kind of know he's going to go for her. She responds by coming back at him, by going back a few days ago and saying, "Well, remember, like I'm still on you because you told
hmm
Andrew that I'd been saying his name and I hadn't been, except it was in the conclave."
Yeah.
And there's this really funny moment when Andrew says to her, "Well, you also blame that on, you said that that might just be Poddy being the misremembering old man." To which, perfectly comedically timed, Poddy goes, "Was that about Patrick?"
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "No, you!" And he's just like, "Oh, yeah." So a bit of levity at the round table did make me laugh. Poddy keeps going. He says that Caitlin was with Eamon yesterday. And I thought, so were you. It's not a very good reason. Vanessa comes in next, also coming at Caitlin, says she doesn't like that Caitlin has voted for Poddy 3 times in a row for the same thing. She hasn't moved on. She's not tried to look at anything else. And Amy joins in with that, as does Christine. Christine talks a bit more about what we talked about earlier, getting the shield from John and how that
hmm
all played out. Andrew speaks up again. He's desperately trying to defend himself now. And he puts out his theory that Caitlin and Eamon were traitors together, which is true, and that Patrick is the mastermind, which is not true. Now, he doesn't use the word mastermind, but it's sort of this implication. He keeps saying
Yeah.
someone else is driving the narrative, someone else has created the plan, and you two just carried it out. He he also thinks that all three of them, the narrative that I'm talking about is, we need to look for the quiet ones round the table. And Caitlin's like, I've never said that. Andrew also said he suggested something like this to Patrick at some point, and he didn't like Patrick's response that the traitors probably aren't thinking that strategically. I'm
hmm
on Patrick's side. I don't, I mean, the traitors. I don't think the traitors are thinking that
I thought Patrick
strategically.
was saying they were. I thought Patrick said they were thinking, like he had all these multi-layered plans.
Oh, it was the opposite. And Andrew was like, I think the traitors have got this plan and they're going to
Okay.
make these be. And Patrick said, I really don't think it's that. Yeah, in fact, he goes on and he says, this is way too deep, that I don't think it's that deep.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and Andrew's
Yeah.
like, it is that deep. There's a mastermind plan. And Patrick's just like,
Wait,
I don't
wait
think
till he
it's that.
finds out who the mastermind is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
I want to go back to the stuff that they were saying about Andrew
yeah.
because it makes no sense. It's like, so you're complaining Andrew verified that Eamon was lying
Mm,
in discussions before the roundtable. He didn't deny it then. He was one of the people saying, yes, he did in fact lie about it. So why are you complaining he didn't say it at the roundtable? It's like he already verified it to you.
yeah.
He
And if he
already
was a
told you
traitor,
that.
why would he have done that in the first
Right.
place?
Right. If he was a traitor trying to stand by another traitor,
Hmm.
he would never have verified it to begin with. He would have
Yeah,
said, no, that's not the way it happened.
exactly.
So there's no logic. Now, knowing what the plan that Nick and Ben had was, maybe they didn't care if there was logic. They were just trying to get people whipped up.
Yeah.
But still, when you step back and look at it, it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Hmm. And we see a bit later on of Andrew really after the round table desperately trying to prove that he's like, I'm a faithful, I'm a faithful. Maybe he will try and explain that and point out the reasoning to them. I'm not sure. We don't see enough of it.
Mm-hmm.
Aside for the votes, really, at this point. So here we go. Ben begins and votes for Andrew, of course. It was part of this was their blind side. Caitlin is next and goes for Andrew too. Like, I guess she's just going with what she thinks will save her, and that
Which is
Andrew's
smart.
the other
Yeah.
person who's most
Yeah.
likely to get more votes. And she piggybacks on what Vanessa was saying because Vanessa was like, "You just keep voting for Poddy all the time." So she's like, "Well, fine, I'll vote for someone else."
Yeah. I'll
Uh,
vote for his son. I'll show you.
That'll teach him. Uh, Mark goes for Andrew too, which is not a surprise, but he's sort of apologetic about it now. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I can't remember. He says something like, "Well, I admire the way you defended yourself, but my plan was to vote for you, so I'm still going to do it." Oyen votes for Caitlin and says the truth. She says, "I feel like you and Eamon were working together," and she's right.
Yeah, and I
Joe,
think I think this was the key in getting the vote. She just got. I know I'm jumping to the end here, but because Oyen said it, Caitlin got so caught up in targeting Poddy and joining with Eamon
mm,
that she fell into the same trap as Eamon,
yeah,
and then of course the stuff with the shield, but mostly it was just lack of perspective on her part, and Oyen summarized it well there.
yeah, agreed. Joe goes for Andrew. Joe as in Joanna. Patrick, Kelly, and Poddy all vote for Caitlin, which means we're tied at this point, 4-4. Next couple of votes continue the tie because Amy votes for Caitlin and Nick votes for Andrew. And then it just all falls apart from Caitlin. The next
Yeah,
five votes, all for her. Christine, Andrew, Wilkin, Faye, Vanessa. So that's it. Her fate is sealed. She stands up to give her goodbye speech and says, and she's upset and she says,
hmm
first, I told you that I cried a lot. I never imagined I'd get this far. You're all brilliant. I care about you all so much. I wish you all the best. And then reveals, I have to let you in on a secret. I'm not a wedding celebrant. I'm a consultant and I specialize in leadership and team psychology, which is quite funny because she wasn't amazing at it here.
yeah,
And she says, I told you all along that if you voted for me, I'd be standing up here and I'd be telling you I'm a faithful. And goes on, and I'm sure some of them are worried, going, "Oh
yeah,
God." And I like when traitors are caught, but they
yeah,
still like just lead them on a little bit
right,
further. It's fun. And she says, "I hope you're all really satisfied with yourselves because I'm a traitor." Woo!
yeah.
Celebrations, two in a row, jumping up, hugging, screaming, everything. And Christine's going, "I was right, I was right." And I thought, so were the other 10 people who voted for her, Christine. It wasn't
Yeah, but I
just
think
you.
Christine's been on this train for a while.
I
So,
guess.
and it was a gut feeling. So that's why she was so
Yeah,
happy.
yeah.
regarding
Linda was
Caitlyn's,
also right. Linda named
yeah,
it in episodes
but
like
Linda
one, but
Linda
she's
wasn't
no
there to
longer
jump
here.
around anymore. So
No, no.
she may be jumping around at home. But it was so funny when Caitlyn revealed it. Like this was some, like I work in leadership and psychology. Like, did she expect people to go, ooh? Like, I mean, it reminds me of, not to mention U.S. Big Brother again, but there some people hide their jobs there too. And one time, someone revealed, "I'm a mathematician." Ooh, you know. And then another time, someone revealed, "I'm a brand strategist." And they
Oh,
didn't, she
okay.
didn't want, yeah, she didn't want to tell anyone that because it had the word strategist in it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I can those yeah, those are silly. But
yeah,
I understand. I mean, I don't think it matters, but I understand Caitlin thinking some players might
right.
use it against me. I mean, it
So
doesn't
just
matter
leave
because
out
they
the
figured out she was a
psychology.
traitor
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. But it was just so funny that she expected some big revelation, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and they were just like, okay, get to the rest of it, get to the rest of it,
Yeah.
get to the important part.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
say, you mentioned that you were spoiled accidentally on this one.
Mm,
I was essentially spoiled by how much time was left because
mm,
I knew, I mean, there was half an
okay.
episode left when they
Sure.
went to the round table. And I was like, this probably means Caitlyn is banished, and then we have to go from there to a blackmail. Now,
Yeah,
oddly,
okay.
it didn't really take that long for the blackmail part.
Yeah,
So I was spoiled but wrong at the same time because
yeah,
what really took a long time was what happened after Caitlyn was banished,
yeah,
which,
yeah.
when Ben and Nick were dumb.
Yeah, they're all in the middle of celebrating
Yeah.
and Nick I mean they're still in the banishment room and Nick's saying
Hmm.
to Joe, man, I wish we just kept her. It was so obvious she was a traitor. Um and it's well there's two things. There's the big thing that you and I'll both probably talk about, but also what interested me here, I could have said this earlier in the episode, is like the meta of the game, but also
Right.
the choice of the editors to include this. Quite often in this show, we think they do
Hmm.
the people making the show don't want us, the viewers, to realize that the players have sort of seen the cracks in the game and decided
Right.
to play it differently than the obvious way of playing it, which is you must get out traitors. So it's kind of interesting that they're like, do you know what? If the players are talking about actually not wanting to banish traitors, let's just show the viewers that. So it's just funny that yeah, we get to hear Nick saying we knew she was a traitor, but we didn't really want to get rid of her. Um, so yeah, Ben is repeating this as well. He's saying. Also, I would just say it is quite easy of them to say that after Caitlyn got banished and it was proven that she was a
Right.
traitor. Now they're like,
Right.
oh man, it was so obvious she was a traitor. You should have like I thought, well, you didn't know that for sure. Like you were pretty confident, but you didn't really
Right.
know. And Vanessa, Amy, and Andrew, and probably some of the others are really pissed with Ben and Nick for this. Maybe Mark too. I don't know. 'Cause they're like, man, we just got out of traitor and we're celebrating. Like, give us a minute. And Poddy pretends to join in. He's like, "Yeah, I want to celebrate getting that traitor."
Yeah.
And so they're still in the room. Siobhan has to return and demand silence, then congratulates them. And I thought, right, okay, right. And then I was thinking, right, we're going to have a blackmail coming up soon. Uh, so that, like you, I thought, right, that's why there's. I looked at the time. Okay,
Hmm.
yep, there's still some time left in the episode. But she leaves. Ben and Nick keep berating the other players. And Wilkin and some of the others and me as a viewer, I find it they're a bit patronizing. I think they go too far.
Oh, yeah.
And if even if they think they've got this strategy and they should have not got Caitlyn out, they're patronizing your fellow players isn't great strategy because it's not good social game, I think. It's not good to just piss off your fellow players.
Yeah. I mean, it's some of the most obvious gameplay we've ever seen, like you mentioned. And yeah, Nick saying out loud, "Oh, we could have kept her in our pocket." Well, okay. couple things here. One, you can't all have her in your pocket. The
Mm,
idea of having a traitor in your pocket is it's you and the traitor. So the traitor will protect you.
hmm.
If everyone knows that person's a traitor, you
Then
derive no benefit
no one's
from it.
protected if everyone's
Yeah.
protected.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Two, that's something you say inside your head, not out loud. If you want
Yeah.
to say it out loud, you say it just to the camera. You don't say it to everyone because you're pissed about it.
Hmm.
And they have to be targets now.
Yeah.
Because if I'm a faithful, I'm like, well, I can't trust that person to do what I want them to do.
Mm,
If I'm a traitor, well, what are they going to do now? Especially as it turns out who the traitors are going to be.
mm.
And Nick even realized it and said in confessional, oh, that was not a very good move. It's like, no, it was a really dumb move. And they just reacted out of frustration that people were not going along with their oh so great plan. I mean, there was just a huge amount of ego there, probably buffed up by Nick being told he was the leader.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they didn't listen to him. And it's just like, my God, get a hold of yourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just gives the impression to the others that actually you're quite cunning yourself, which is not a bad thing
Mm-hmm.
to be in the game, but you kind of maybe don't want that to be the impression everybody has of you, that you've got secret schemes and you're planning to get
Yeah.
traitors on site. Yeah, like a lot of the other faithful will be like, oh, just thought you were a nice guy that wanted to get traitors.
Yeah, and I mean cunning, selfish, I think is another good thing. Now, should everybody be cunning and selfish? Yes. But you pretend not to be.
Yeah, right, exactly. So as they leave the room finally, there is just this weird atmosphere. A lot of the
Yeah.
players are pissed off at the guys, and Kelly is talking to someone else and points, and she's like, "Well, no, I'm glad we got rid of Caitlin because A, well, if we didn't, we potentially we're going to lose another faithful to
Mm-hmm.
banishment, and which may be fine, but B, I guess the point that you and I discussed earlier is that well, if we get it wrong, someone else is going to get murdered tonight, and that could be me, and I don't want to get murdered, and Nick should
Yeah.
be thinking it could have been him that got murdered." So they gather in a room. The discussion continues here, and it's really funny because I think Nick starts to realize that he's pissed everyone else off because he's like, "Oh, well, I'm not annoyed. No, I'm not annoyed." He's like, "I'm just," and I can't remember what he said. He's just like, "I just wish we had done the thing that I wanted to do and you didn't do, but I'm not annoyed about it." And he even then admits in an interview clip, he goes, "It was probably the wrong move, but."
Yeah.
And then, like he's trying to defend himself. He goes, "I think I needed to create a bit of chaos." And I thought, why? No, you didn't. You're just trying to be cool now.
Yeah.
So bad move on Nick and Ben's part, I would say.
Yeah.
Mark's probably getting away with it because everyone just sort of likes Mark and he's a nice guy. So he's probably backing off like, oh, I didn't think it was a good idea. I wasn't part of
Well,
that.
also, I mean, it was Nick and Ben who specifically told everyone they were
Mm,
basically dummies for doing this. I don't think
right.
Mark joined in on that.
No,
I
no,
mean, yeah, he
exactly.
wanted the plan, but he didn't jump on everyone like those two did.
Yes, yeah. It's time for us to head to the dungeon shortly after this. Everyone goes off to bed. It's midnight. Siobhan tells us that what we've guessed, Paul will have to basically blackmail someone now. She d delivers it in a very
Yeah.
devilish fashion, which is
That
just
sounds
fantastic.
like that sounds like blackmail.
Yeah,
And
if
it
that's what you
is.
want to call it. Yeah, yeah, she's great. And even even Poddy can't believe he's not only still here, but that he is the last traitor standing.
I can't either.
In fact, that with the newspaper thing that spoiled it for me was there was a picture of Poddy, which actually made me think, oh, Poddy's been banished. That's but then I read the caption under it because I thought, well, I've got this far. And it said, Poddy, the last traitor standing. And I was like, what? Um, so he thinks he's evaded everyone's suspicion now. I don't really think that's the case. I mean, I think some of them, he's still high up on some people's list. I don't think
I
they're all like, well, he's a faithful.
I think
Maybe I'm wrong.
I think that in many ways he has evaded it because the two people who were going after him
Mm.
have been shown to be
Sure.
traitors.
That's true.
Now,
That's true.
you could, I mean, if it's one-on-one, traitor versus traitor, or traitor versus another person, you could say, oh, it's two traitors fighting. But to think that all three traitors were so messy as to be fighting amongst themselves in
Mm,
that way in public, that would
that's
be
quite
crazy.
unlikely.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, maybe. I just that absolutely makes sense. I'm just sort of thinking forward to the end of the game. If I was a player in this game
mhm.
and I was down to the last, four or five, and it's that end game, and you've got your last chance to vote someone out, I can't imagine them going, right, I'll just take the chance. He's a faith. I would,
Right.
because he's been just quite chaotic. I just probably wouldn't take that chance. I'd be like, he's had suspicion on him at various points. Let's just get him out. I can't
Well,
trust to share this prize with this guy.
also, let's face, I mean, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but let's face it, between him and his son, they're very likely to mess up in the near future.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, I would absolutely love to see them, a
right.
father and son, win this
Yeah.
show. Like that would just be something I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
So Siobhan meets Poddy in the dungeon to explain what's going to happen, and we know what he's gonna do.
Hmm.
He's gonna recruit his son, and I just think this is such a brilliant way. It's the I don't know, whatever the expression is, the chips have fallen, the dominoes are like,
Yes.
for it all to have come down to the secret father and son, and one of them is a traitor, and he's gonna recruit his son. It's just great TV.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he is truly the one person you can trust. He is
Yeah,
not going to turn on you at the end. If you
exactly.
two make it together, you don't have to worry about the share or split game.
Right,
That's
right.
the one person.
I mean, that would be the ultimate shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Poddy turns
Ah,
around and
gotcha,
betrays his
Dad.
son. Ha
Yeah.
ha
Yeah.
ha. I love you,
But
son, but not that
yeah.
much.
Yeah. I I just can't believe they left that as a cliffhanger. There's no cliff.
I thought you might say this. Yeah, he writes down Andrew, and Siobhan takes it off, and he's like, "Oh, I think I'll actually sleep well for the first time tonight." And Andrew gets his letter. The traitors have requested a meeting with you immediately. Um, and yeah, that the episode ends on this. To me, a great note. To you, maybe not so much.
I mean, a silly
Um,
note. I mean, especially if there really is going to be a murder. This leads me to believe there won't be a murder
yeah,
because
because
otherwise,
because
I
that would
think
have
they
been the
would have.
cliffhanger.
Yeah, they would have done the obvious, gotten Andrew in there, and then done a murder and left that as the
Yeah.
cliffhanger.
I don't mind us not seeing it because I think I'm just excited to see Andrew's
Hmm.
literal reaction to going,
Yes.
"Oh my God, Dad, it's you!" Like
Yeah.
that's fun enough for me to be excited about the next episode. But yeah, maybe they could have just got that over and done with. I mean, unless Andrew is just like. Oh, Dad, I'm going to be a terrible traitor. Just murder. You just go ahead and pick someone else. I'll leave the game. See you when we get home. Like I can't do this. You never know. I can imagine that when this was being filmed, the production crew behind the scenes just going, "This is perfect. We couldn't have planned this. Oh, I'm so glad we got this father and son on the." So, I mean, and maybe fun enough, in one of the previous episodes, I think maybe it was with Jane from Traitors New Zealand. We were kind of saying we didn't think Poddy was doing a great job, and we were going, God, why did they pick him as a traitor? But maybe this is why they were like, let's get one of those a traitor, so that maybe they'll recruit their family member later on. So maybe that is the reason.
Yeah.
Uh, we have got some listener questions. Before we get there, are there any other final thoughts on the episode as a whole, David, that we've not covered yet?
Um. Just you know, uh, last week when I was on, we predicted Poddy was not long for the game, and instead it was the other two traders. I think it's hilarious that they
Yeah.
blew up their own games trying so desperately to get rid of Poddy, and it's like. It just classic mistake of overdoing it. And
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Poddy played poorly also, But that just shows how bad Eamon and Caitlin were in screwing up their own games.
Yeah.
That you couldn't even get Putty, who made numerous mistakes and whose son made numerous mistakes on top of that.
Hmm.
And instead, you two went home.
Yeah, yeah. And I said it earlier, but I'll say again, my first impression after episode 1 and 2 was Caitlin was gonna do a great job and she'd
Mm-hmm.
go far and she was the perfect person to be a traitor. And here we are. She's out and not and out because everyone was pretty convinced she was a traitor for quite some time. So she did not do as well as I thought she would at all.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Uh, Before we get to a couple of really interesting listener questions, I've got something very exciting to talk about on the pod. I'm going to look right at the camera. I don't look at the camera when we're doing the pod because I'm looking at you, David, on the screen, and the camera's up a little bit. I'm looking at the camera because maybe I'll use this on social media. Very exciting. There is now, after many requests for the past year or two that I've been doing the podcast, for some Trader merch. So actually, if you want a mug like mine with the Trader logo on it, or some clothing like a t-shirt with Trader logo like my hoodie that I often wear on the pod, you can now have that. So there is a merch shop set up on redbubble.com. I will put the link on the description for the episode and I'll put it on the Instagram page and so on. So you can go along and have a look. I have bought some things from the merch shop myself because I was very excited about it. So I've got myself a Trader notebook and a sticker that I'm going to put on my laptop, and I bought a t-shirt with the Trader logo on it. So if you've ever been interested in buying something with the podcast logo on it, you might want to head over there and have a look. There's some really, really cool stuff. There's also some quite wild stuff on there. I will say, I'm not really anticipating anyone wants a Trader shower curtain or bath mat, but you can buy them if you want. As a sort of default, everything imaginable is on the Trader shop. I will go back and curate it and maybe just limit it to things that people might genuinely want. But if you want some sort of like limited edition item that no one will ever probably buy again, head to it now and buy that shower curtain by all means. Something else I have noticed on the shop is the Trader logo might appear a little smaller than you'd like on like the t-shirts and things. I think if you buy an item, you can't really change that, but I can change it in the design. So if you go on and there's something you see that you think's cool and you'd like it, but you think the logo looks a little small, send me a message and say, "Hey, Matthew, I really want that t-shirt with the Trader on it." I will try and change it from my end and make it look a bit bigger or the size that you'd like, and maybe that'll work out a little bit better. So I'm very excited about that one. David, I'm sure next time I see you, I'm sure you'll be adorned head to toe in
Do they
Trader.
do they have cloaks? Do they have branded
No. So
cloaks?
one thing they don't have, I will have to look into a way of. They don't have cloaks, but I mean, you could buy your own cloak and you could buy like one of the stickers and you could just stick it on yourself.
I don't
You
know
know,
that
you
it
could
would
be
stay
inventive.
very well.
Maybe
So,
not,
do
yeah.
they ship to all different countries? This is something that
As
everyone needs to know.
I am pretty sure Redbubble is worldwide and you can ship all over the place. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But check it out. There's some really, really interesting stuff on there. But like I'll sort of curate it and limit it down to maybe stuff that people might actually want. Like this, the stickers are like like £1, £1.50 or something. So I guess like $2 or whatever that is. So that's fun. And fridge magnets and mugs and all sorts of stuff. It's cool. Uh, so yeah, again, I'll put the link for that in the episode description. Now on to a couple of more listener comments and questions. This is from Chan Cork. I'm guessing Chan is from Cork in Ireland. This was on Spotify. And it says, "Hi guys, loving the podcast. This is not really a question, just something that maybe we don't know or we wouldn't think of it in this way because we're not from Ireland. And from what I understand, like the Irish media and the Irish viewers are loving Poddy. He's like their Linda of the season from Linda UK. It says, just a note on Poddy, he's a masterclass in something we call cute hoorism, which may be a bad word for some people. I'm not sure. It's a passive aggressive style of argument where someone wins by pretending to be naive or harmless while actually being highly cunning and opportunistic. The cute hooer bends rules without breaking them, stays street smart, and keeps a respectable front. This trait evolved. Now, here's a little bit of like historical context. This trait evolved during colonization when the powerless found clever ways to outwit authority without provoking backlash. And there have been a couple of comments like that on YouTube about Poddy being smarter than we're giving him credit for, and he's like deliberately playing like the old guy. I guess they even talked about it in the show. Like they talked about him being the misremembering old man, but a lot of people think he's this is his character. He's deliberately doing it to
So,
make
so,
everybody underestimate him. I don't know.
so I'm going to take the unpopular view because
And
this
say that
is
he's just
something.
clueless.
Yes, because this is something I see all the time. We talked about Big Brother, and I called them a bunch of dummies on there, and there are two of them in particular. One is, I mean, they're both completely delusional, and so many people, I mean, not percentage wise, but numbers wise, have come out and said, no, no, they're purposely pretending not to know. One in particular, the one Kelly, actually, she came into Big Brother without ever having watched anything. She lied about what she's watched. She contradicted herself. She probably watched like an Instagram reel about one player and then acted like she knew what she was talking about. And other people are like, no, no, she's a secret genius. She is a super fan. She has been watching this show forever. You just wait and see. And it's like, no, she's just a dummy. Do not assume that someone is just because they come off as being a dummy, that means they're smart. No, the
Hmm.
obvious is usually the situation, especially if they're not in confessionals going, hey,
Yeah.
I've convinced them
Ah.
all I'm a dummy, but I'm really super smart behind the
Yeah.
scenes. There is a player like that on Big Brother. There's a player who is a lawyer who went to Georgetown, graduated, top of her class in college, and she is playing as a dummy. She literally studied what's the show? Not
Dummyology.
no. There was a couple of movies where the main character was Elle, and it turned into a
Oh, Legally
musical.
Blonde.
Yeah, Legally Blonde. She said she actually studied how Elle acted
Yeah.
to
Did
dumb
you make a
herself
social
down.
media video about this?
I don't
This
think
seems
so.
very. I've seen this somewhere online.
Okay.
I've read about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's and so she's in there telling us this. So that's how we know, okay, she is playing dumb. There's even been
Hmm.
scenes on the show where like the actual dumb one says, "Oh, I took a practice LSAT, which is to get into law school."
Hmm.
And oh, is the bar the same in all the states or are they individual bars? And the actual lawyer goes, "Oh, I don't know. I would have no way of knowing that." Uh and that's the difference between pretending to be dumb and actually being dumb. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying Poddy is dumb. I do not think he's dumb. The people on Big Brother, they are. I think that Poddy makes mistakes. There is no reason he would quote unquote accidentally reveal what happened in the conclave.
No, no, no.
Those are, and he did it twice, once with Caitlyn, once with Eamon. That is just him misremembering things and getting a little confused. And so I'm sorry. I do not think he is intentionally playing it up. I just think this is who he is. Let's enjoy him for who he is.
Yeah. I disagree with you a little bit. I think there's somewhere in between. I think he's making genuine mistakes and messing
Mm-hmm.
up. But I think, firstly, sometimes we do see him in confessional. I think he realized really early on, oh, Caitlyn and Eamon we're never going to work as a team.
Right.
I'm going to have to turn against. I think he was smart enough to realize, oh, I'm not going to try and patch things up with them. He knew straight away, no matter
Yeah.
what they say to me now, I can't trust them,
Right.
which was smart. But I also think the first time he said something about what happened in Conclave was an accident. I think the second time was deliberate when he talked about
Mm-hmm.
Eamon because I think he was trapping Eamon because he knew that Eamon wasn't going to say, "Hey," in front of other people. I said that to you in Conclave. He knew that Eamon just had to be like, "I didn't say that. I didn't." And Paulie was
I mean,
like, you did
yeah,
say that, and you can't prove it otherwise. And the other two people involved, Nick and Andrew, they both know they told you that. So I can pretend you said it to me anywhere. And so I think he did
that's,
do that deliberately.
I mean, that's possible. That one's hard to say. It was a good item for Nick because Nick was on top of it by saying there's no way he could have come up with that on his own. It wasn't
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like he said, you mentioned my name. It was details of a conversation
yeah,
that there
yeah,
was no way he could have come up with on his own.
yeah. I mean, maybe down the line, Nick will come back to that and go, wait a minute. Is there a possibility that Poddy's a traitor and that's how he knew Eamon said? So
Yeah.
maybe it'll come back around.
Right. If Nick isn't eliminated before then. Um,
Exactly.
but I would agree that yes, he is using it. You know, he made the mistakes and now he is using that to his
Yeah,
advantage. But I don't think he came into the game being like, haha, I'm going to fool them into thinking I'm the,
yeah,
the daft old man here,
sure,
because he's not. He made some mistakes, and
sure.
misremembered a few things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Next up, we have a comment on YouTube, and this is from Zipker, who is a long-time listener. Hello, Zipker. This is a really detailed comment, and people should definitely go to the YouTube video and check it out because you will have thoughts on this, I'm sure. I'm gonna pick out highlights from it. It's a really interesting point. It says, loving the podcast as always. Wanted to reply to something you and the other guests here have talked about in the past few episodes, as well as past seasons. I feel like you and a lot of the guests seem to be assuming that production wants to choose traitors who will do well as a traitor and examine it from this lens, i.e., why would they choose Poddy as a traitor? To me, it seems like the much smarter thing for production to do would be the exact opposite, to pick traitors that are likely to not last long. Traitor banishment episodes are consistently higher rated and receive more buzz and discussion than faithful banishment episodes. So having more traitor banishments will result in more TV moments. It also results in more traitor drama because when a traitor's under suspicion more, traitors face the dilemma of whether to try and save their fellow traitor or sacrifice them, and so on. Also results in more recruitments and blackmails, which are fun moments for the show since you get to see a faithful's reaction to who the other traitors are. For these reasons, to me, it's not a coincidence that the more highly rated traitor seasons usually have more traitor banishments. There's a very high correlation with how many traitor banishments a season has and how well regarded the season is. I think many of the productions now aim to cast a group of traitors that are likely to not just be poor at it, but not get along. Um, so there we go. He says, anyway, those are my thoughts. Would love to know what you all think. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but actually, from a production point of view,
Mm-hmm.
I can absolutely see that you want maybe a mix, a couple of people who you think, right, they want to be traitors, they're going to be good at this. It'll be great to see the strategy play out and see them like lie really well and fool people and back. But also, yeah, it'll be good if we get a bit of drama and we get some people who are really bad at it, and it will create sort of water cooler moments and it will make good TV to have bad traitors. So actually, I'm with you on that, Zipker, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever specifically voiced an opinion on how production chooses the traders in that
Mm,
way, because I think I would agree that they do want to mix. Now, what do we want as people who value the strategic game and all of that? We want the strategic ones. We want to see the traders fool the faithful and get away with it and everything else. Um, which is why, like for me personally, Traders US is a whole different thing. That is more about the drama of the returning players and seeing them interact than it is really seeing them play a game.
yeah.
And you can see why someone like on Traders US, Carolyn was chosen as a trader because she was going to have these big reactions, whatever happened, and she wasn't going to let people push her around,
I
and
don't know what you're talking about, David.
yeah. Yeah. And Bob the drag queen was going to have these big reactions,
Yeah,
and all of that. So I do think that, yeah, a lot of casting is done that way. That's one of the complaints. I hate to keep going back to Big Brother 27, but that's one of the complaints for Big Brother 27 is they cast people who have no clue how to play the game. And it's like, we want to see them play the game, not the dummies of the world running around in circles, just thinking that they're trying to entertain. Literally, 10 minutes before we came on, I posted my latest video. And it was about a player who I saw on Live Feeds, this Keeley, saying, I was hired to make good TV. It's like, well, first of all, you weren't hired. You applied and were cast. Second of all, no, that's not your job. That's what production wants. But you
Mhm.
should not be doing production's job. You're playing for $750,000.
Yeah.
Play for that. Don't play to quote unquote make good TV, especially since she's a 30-year-old who acts like a 5-year-old, and therefore it isn't good TV anyway. But, you know, I just wish they would play. And yes, good TV can come out of it. Some people can be good. I when I came on for the first 3 episodes, or for the third episode, I said the first 2 were kind of meh to
Yeah.
me. These have been more interesting in part because, yes, we saw Eamon and Caitlin really screw up.
Yeah.
So I know I'm kind of talking at cross purposes here. I would like to see traitors play well, and I like to see them punished when they don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we want to see them caught when they
Yeah,
deserve to be caught.
right, right.
And they've messed up. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I do think I think you're right. You said we want to see people who are actually very good at
Mm-hmm.
strategizing and being good traders. That's interesting TV. And I think I agree that maybe there's a mix needs to be, but you want really good traders, and yeah, maybe someone who's not quite so good and they're going to be quite funny and they're going to get things wrong
Right.
and get banished. I don't think production would ever pick 3 people who don't really want to be traders and they're going to be bad at it. That's also no fun to watch, actually.
Right.
Just people who do dumb things. And at episode 1, all the other players are like, well, they're a traitor, they're a traitor, they're so bad at this. Like that's also not exciting. Part of the thrill of the show is what it says about human psychology, who knows? But
Mm-hmm.
part of the thrill of the show is people, oh, it's great when people lie really well and get away with things and do stuff behind people's backs. Like that's exciting. So we need
Or
that.
or hear me out. You could cast a new season, let's say in Australia, and pick a really bad trader who thinks really highly of themselves, and then a bunch of absolute dummies, like the bottom of the barrel dummies who have never seen the show, never bothered to even read the rule book, don't know what's going on, and then run that show and see what happens.
Yeah, and see what it does to the show as a whole in that country.
Yeah, yeah,
Not all dummies. Some of them figured out exactly what was going on, and then the other dummies voted them
right. Yes,
out.
yes.
So thank you for the comments and the questions. There were so many this week, and there are even more on YouTube. There are people debating whether or not the other players know Poddy's a traitor or whether they've been convinced by him. So lots of discussions you can get involved in there. And again, even for this episode, send in your questions. Give us more to talk about next time. It's great to hear them. David, if people want to send you thoughts on the Traitors or Big Brother or anything else and find out what other shows you're covering, how can they find you online?
I am all over social media and reality TV podcasting, especially this week. Things have been rather crazy for me. I had 2 Big Brother 27 Why Blank Lost podcasts on RHAP over the past 2 days. And then tomorrow, I have a Survivor 49 preview podcast. So that's 4 days of podcasting in a row today for me, all while doing a number of TikTok and YouTube videos for different aspects of usually Big Brother. I am at David Bloomberg TV on the video sites. I recently passed 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. Should hit 13,000 on TikTok any moment now if I haven't already. And of course, you
Woohoo!
can yes, you can find all of my various accounts at Linktree/David Bloomberg. You can find me directly on Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. And yeah, that's find me anywhere. I have not
Yeah.
seen much online discussion like on Blue Sky, for example, about the Traitors Ireland. So,
Okay.
find me there.
Yes, absolutely. And David's Linktree address is in the episode description, so you can use that to find all of the places that he is online. And as for the podcast, to keep up with it and the Traitors and any other shows we end up covering, you can follow on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trader Podcast. And of course, you can leave comments, questions, thoughts on those places. You can email me at thetradarpodcast@gmail.com, or you could do what Kenlin did and leave a voice message and be featured on the podcast yourself at memo.fm/the Tradar Podcast. It's super easy. And of course, now there is a merch shop for the podcast. The actual address is a little bit complicated to read out. It's redbubble.com, which a lot of people will be familiar with. I've certainly used it before. And if you search for the Trader on that, you'll find it really easily. Wherever you're listening, it's great if you can subscribe. I say this every week, oh, please review, leave, subscribe, follow, and and then never say thank you because I checked out Spotify the other day and there were a bunch more great 5-star ratings for the pod. So thanks to everybody who's gone ahead and left a nice review or a star rating. David, we will be back to talk about episode 9, I believe, quite soon in the following week,
Yes.
sooner than before. So the episodes will
Yes.
be released really a bit closer to when they actually air in Ireland. I'll be back with Lindsay, who's coming back from episode 1 to talk about episode 7. Until next time, keep us on your radar.
And stay traitorous.